Buongiorno e benvenuti. My name is Giovanna and I welcome all of you to my kitchen on the cliff. Today we're going to make Pastiera di Grano e Ricotta, that wonderful pie that you remember your grandmother making at Easter or other times of the year. It's made with cooked wheat and ricotta, candied fruit, sugar, and we're going to use Fior di Sicilia, which is a wonderful, wonderful flavoring that you can use instead of vanilla in just about everything. For the crust of this wonderful pastiera, we're going to use flour, sugar, shortening or butter, eggs, and white wine. This will make a wonderful, tender, flaky crust that is delicious for any tart, actually. You can make a fruit tart, you can make a custard tart, any kind of tart you like. The filling is going to be the wheat, which we buy prepared. You could find this in any Italian grocery store. And we're going to add to that ricotta. This is not ricotta from the supermarket. Not that the ricotta from the supermarket is not wonderful and delicious, it is. But for this recipe and for many recipes that I do, we need a ricotta that is denser and drier. This too you could find in a good Italian store. We're going to start by heating up the grano with a cup of milk. This is our cooked wheat grain. It's the whole grain. We're going to add the sugar and a cup of milk. We're going to turn the heat to low and start heating it up as we continue to mix. I used to make this with grain that I bought and cooked, but you have to soak it overnight to cook it and it never seems to cook right. So when I found this in the supermarket a few years ago, I simply buy this and I use it all the time. I have the heat on high to let it come to a boil quickly. And once it comes to a boil, we're going to lower it to a simmer. Remember, the milk burns easily, so watch this. Take the time to keep it company. All right, we let it come to a full boil. Now, we lower it to the lowest possible setting that maintains the simmer. All right, now we're going to let it simmer, certainly for 15 minutes, and then you look at it again. Hey Siri, please set the timer for 15 minutes.
15 minutes, counting down.
Thank you. We're going to measure 4 cups of flour, half a cup of sugar, half a cup of shortening or butter. I'm going to cut the shortening into the flour, and I'm going to add the eggs one at a time. I'm measuring a half a cup of wine. Half a cup. Now at this point, if the dough doesn't form, then you can add more wine, 1 tablespoonful at a time. You want to be very, very careful not to make the dough too soft. And we're going to take it out. The dough should not be sticky. It should be quite dry, but soft. Okay, now we're going to knead it lightly. Let's shape it into a ball. We're going to cover it and let it rest for 30 minutes. Our wheat has cooked for 15 minutes and we're going to check it. This is after 15 minutes of cooking. As you can see, there is still a fair amount of liquid on top. Okay, so we're going to give it another 15 minutes. Now, why don't we simply cook it for a half an hour? Because this has to be watched. So 15 minutes without watching it is admissible. But more than that, you know, you can burn it, you can overcook it, you can undercook it. So you give it 15 minutes and we'll check it again later.
A few moments later.
Our grain, which has reduced and absorbed all the milk, is cooling. And meanwhile, we're going to start rolling out dough This is our dough. We're going to divide it in half, and we're going to divide this into a smaller and a larger piece. The larger piece will be for the bottom, the smaller piece will be for the lattice on top. Now we're going to take some flour for the bench. The dough feels very nice. Okay. To transfer a piece of dough, we simplify it this way. Roll it on, and now we don't pull, we sort of allow it to go down into the pie plate, right? We don't pull because we don't want to break it. Okay, we're going to trim it all around. If you have something tears, you fix it with a piece of dough. All right, we're going to put it aside for a minute. Now we'll do the second one. We gather all these trimmings we needed, and this will be for the lattice. We're going to shape this again into a ball. We flatten it. We sprinkle with flour, top and bottom, and we start rolling it out. All right, try to keep the circle, because this has to fit a circular dish. You can kind of control this, you know, as you do this at the beginning, you can shape it into a rectangle or a square or a circle. So you kind of accentuate what you've already got. See, I already have the circle, and now I'm just accentuating the circle. See, now I have a circle. Do it slowly, there's no hurry. It's pretty circular. All right, so I'm going to take the dish. That's more than enough. Remember how we transport a sheet of dough. We roll it on the rolling pin. We pick it up. Perfect. So now we're not going to pull and stretch the dough. We're going to pick it up all around this plate and let it sit to the bottom of the dish. Just let it settle into the dish so that it touches the bottom. The dough is very nicely rested. It's not pulling back. This fits the plate very well, and I didn't stretch it any more than necessary. So now I'm going to trim it. I'm going to add this to the rest of it, and that will become the lattice. So I'm just re-kneading it so that it all sticks together well. And I'm going to put it under the bowl. This is one of the many uses of the bench scraper. Now we're going to finish the filling. This is the most wonderful ricotta. You know, you can eat it just like that with a spoon, and it's delicious. After using this container for so many years, I know more or less how much is 2 pounds just by looking at what's left over. So this, I'm sure this is, if not absolutely exactly, it's about 2 pounds. We're going to incorporate our wheat with the ricotta. Let's add the sugar. This is a ½ cup of sugar that goes into the filling. There's already a ½ cup that I put into the grain, so we have 1 cup of sugar totally. We're using 4 eggs. Now we're going to put our flavoring. It's called Fiori di Sicilia, or flowers of Sicily, and it is one of the most fragrant flavorings I've ever come across. When I was teaching at ICE, at the Institute of Culinary Education, I would pass the top around for the student to smell it. It's like perfume. You could put it behind your ears, but we won't. We just put it in the food. So we're going to put 2 teaspoons. Well, a good teaspoon of Fior di Sicilia. So I normally just put it in, but I'm scrupulous about giving measurements when I do the videos. You don't have to beat the eggs separately. You know, I try to dirty as few things as possible. This bowl is a little too small. So, okay, now we're going to put the fruit. So we start with citron, and I bought the citron already cut. You'll forgive me. I generally buy citron whole, and the reason for that is I like to decorate cakes with citron, in which case I want to cut it myself, and I want to take advantage of the curve of the fruit to get interesting slices, and then I make a pattern on top of the cake. This time, since I knew that it needed to be cubed, I bought it already cubed. This is citron. It's a huge lemon with a very, very thick skin. Okay, here we have a half a cup. You know, the eye has to have something too. I'm going to use a half a cup of cherries, and that will add all this wonderful color. And a half a cup of green cherries. Sometimes I cut the cherries in half just to spread them more, but I'm leaving it alone this time. This is done. It smells wonderful. I wish you could be here. So now we're going to fill our two beautiful shells. I smell the Fior di Sicilia. I'm going to knead this again. Okay, I'm going to divide this again, since we're doing two. Always put the dough back under the bowl or under a towel. Remember always a sprinkling of flour, top and bottom. Again, I'm trying to keep to a circle. This is my mother's wheel. She used it as we were growing up, and then I got to use it. All right, I start in the middle. I'm going to put a little bit of water on the perimeter. Start with the middle. Okay, so we're doing a center, strip, and two on each side. Now, Americans weave it, and Italians don't weave it. They just put the top layer at an angle. So not necessarily a 45-degree angle, but an angle. So we're going to put two on each side. Lovely. Isn't that lovely? Now, what do you do with these? You put them in the pan next to the pies, and these are for the children to eat as soon as they come out of the oven. Little cookies, delicious. So now we take a fork, and we're going to press. Okay, now trim. And let's do the second one, and then we'll make some cookies for the kids. Or for the adults who want to have a snack immediately. In Italy, Easter Monday is a national holiday, and everybody takes whatever's left over of the Easter feast and they go on a picnic, or if they have a summer house, they open the summer house. This, of course, is served at room temperature. I'm not fond of it out of the refrigerator, but if you like chilled food, then that's fine. So on Easter Monday, you would take one of these pies, or you would take both of them, or you would take the leftovers and enjoy a wonderful day in the country. It's called Pasquetta in Italian, which means Little Easter. So everybody goes out to the country, either for a picnic or to their vacation house. Okay, beating an egg to glaze the lattice on the pies. And while we're at it, we will also glaze the cookies for the children. Just paint with the egg. Doesn't matter if some egg goes on top. Okay, we're going to decorate them, little sprinkles. These are perfectly respectable cookies. So these are the leftovers. There are no leftovers in our cooking. These are cookies, perfectly fine cookies. So we're going to put them in this pan because they will probably need to come out of the oven sooner than the pies. And these are going to be the treat for the cooks and the children and the pets, and if you want to give one to a pet, I don't know. But we have dogs and they're delicate, and I've been prohibited from feeding the dogs anything other than their proper food. Okay, so let's put them in the oven. We always put something that has a possibility of cooking over, boiling over, in a pan, always. That way it'll catch the drips and it doesn't make a fire and get your oven all dirty. So we have preheated the oven to 375 degrees. Hey Siri, set the timer for 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Counting down.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to check the cookies in 15 minutes because that's probably all they need. The pies need to cook for 1 hour, and I always check them at 45 minutes. You want to see if the top has browned. The crust should be golden brown. See you in an hour. This is our Pastiera di Grano ricotta, or the wheat and the ricotta pie for Easter. But you could make it any time of the year, and we do. Buon appetito e buone feste. I wish you were here. It's delicious. The candied fruit is wonderful. There's citron and cherries, and just heartwarming.
It just looks like a pie, but it tastes like something that you've never had before.
This would be equally delicious with vanilla if you don't happen to have Fior di Sicilia. But buy some Fior di Sicilia, and it gives it a special, very special fragrance that is authentic and wonderful. You will become addicted to it, and even if you make an American pie and you use Fior di Sicilia or a cake, you will be pleased. So these are the leftover pie crust. Remember, we don't throw anything away, but they're quite good. Try one, see what you think of it. I mean, it's like a shortbread cookie.
They look beautiful and full of colored sugar, I guess.
Sprinkles. They're not just for children.
No.
Uh-oh, you're smelling them? You're smelling them? You eat my hand. Now that you know how to make Pastiera di Grano, make it often because it's delicious and your guests will enjoy it too.
We thank you if you're already a subscriber, but if you're not, do remember to subscribe.
Buona Pasqua, buone feste, and a very happy Passover. Celebrate with delicious food. This is one of them.
Okay.
Ciao, alla prossima volta.
We'll see you in the next video.